Hello, and welcome to the Argyle AI Decision Makers Summit, Shaping the Future of Business. My name is Nick with Argyle, and it's great to have everyone joining us today. I have some important information to share with you, and then we'll turn the floor over to our esteemed opening keynote speaker. First, we would like to take a moment to thank today's sponsors, Adobe, Cohesity, and SAP. Our sponsors are committed to providing you with valuable content and a great overall experience. At any time during today's event, you can visit their virtual booths from the main agenda page, which include complimentary materials, information, and meet and greet opportunities. Throughout today's event, you will also have the opportunity to be entered into a raffle. The more actions you take, the more points you will earn towards the raffle, and the top 10 point earners will be entered into a random drawing to win one of three fabulous prizes. So be sure to check out the prizes and raffle rules tab on the left-hand navigation bar to see how you can earn points. We also welcome you to stay socially connected during today's event. For those of you who are active on social media, please use the hashtag ArgyleDigital and follow us on X, formerly Twitter, at Argyle Exec Forum. Also, be sure to follow Argyle on LinkedIn for special announcements. I would like to take a moment to touch on our content neutrality policy, which we have curated based on the feedback we have received over the years from our members. We have worked closely with our speaking faculty to ensure that you receive a set of balanced and neutral viewpoints during the session today. And we appreciate our members' support of this policy. Finally, and most importantly, we want to hear from you. So during each session, we encourage you to submit your questions and comments in the Q&A box on your screen. Following each presentation, we have set aside time for our speakers to weigh in on your questions. Thank you again for joining us today. Now, let's get started. Without further ado, I would like to introduce Anita Luthra, former VP, Senior Lead Architect AI, ML Enablement, Emerging Technologies, JP Morgan Chase. We're super excited to have Anita for her opening keynote presentation titled Farce, Fairy Tales, Realities, and Roadmaps for Integrating AI. Welcome, Anita. Over to you.
Thank you. Welcome to the session. I'm happy to be sharing it with you. And hopefully you will enjoy a little bit of humor while we're going through the session. I realize this tends to be a serious topic, and we will be cutting through the hype to build actionable AI strategies. Next slide. What if I told you that today we will bridge the gap between promise and reality? So what are the success predictions for AI? AI has been a huge buzzword, and here's what some of the headlines are telling us. Gartner in 2023 stated statistics that 73% of AI/ML projects fail to deliver business value. Price Waterhouse Coopers stated that AI is expected to add $15.7 trillion to the global economy by 2030. Reality headlines stated that 87% of companies plan to increase their AI investments. Forbes in 2023 also stated that most projects fail, and there's an article on Here's Why. And there's also an additional article on $100 million AI dollars in AI projects that were shelved. What went wrong? The references to all of these are in the references section on the deck. Next slide, please, Melissa. So for those of you that have been following the life cycle of AI, artificial actually been around since the 1960s. The concepts for artificial intelligence have not changed. What did change was that in 2022, Google, using its new architecture for transformer methodology, began moving forward And from its open paper, it began. OpenAI built out what was known as generative AI, which is text to text AI. And for the first time, we had artificial intelligence that business users and users such as you and me could communicate with artificial intelligence. It was now not relegated into the back rooms and hallways of data scientists, mathematicians, and developers. So where is generate and during that time, AI went through a cycle of disillusionment, and right now what we're seeing is that generative AI is following a similar trough of disillusionment. That's what it's called by Gartner. So for the market cycle analysis for 2024 and 2025, what happened was there was a peak of expectations. Those expectations were inflated through early of 2024. What happened with those expectations was there was an unrealistic ROI, or return on investment. There were projections that artificial intelligence would go a lot further than it had, and that the value to the business was highly inflated. So, with that, there were capabilities that were overpromised, there were implementations that were rushed, and because the implementations were rushed to production, there were problems with the implementations themselves. In our current state, late 2024 and now early 2025, we are entering what's known as the trough of disillusionment. The reality of the implementation challenges of working with large language models is coming to light. The cost versus benefits are being reassessed. It is incredibly expensive to train an AI model. Because of AI model drift and because they're trained to a point in time, what ends up happening is, as time goes on, our current events do not keep up with what's trained. So if it's trained up to April or March of 2024, and you are now looking at data for November of 2024, your model is only able to give you dates as far as March or April of 2024. Those are some of the realities that we're having to compensate for. It's incredibly expensive to train these models. And the third thing is that we now need to focus on practical business use cases to get the value out of these models. And the what we can and cannot focus on is also becoming an issue when you compare it against challenges such as safety, hallucinations, and current data, and what needs to be done to compensate for some of the challenges of the big generative AI models. Next slide, please. So, hype versus reality. Again, this is Gartner. Gen AI begins the trough. The peak of it's now going through its peak of inflated inspections, expectations. You're now reaching a plateau of productivity, and the source for this is McKinsey as of August 2024. Next slide, please. So, what is our path forward? How do we navigate this trough? So, we look at what's triggering the technology on the left hand side, the visibility against the timeline. You look at the peak of inflated expectations. You look at the trough of disillusionment, and you now go into the slope of enlightenment. How do we move forward? So, what are some of the strategic recommendations, short term and long term? For the next 6 to 12 months, there's going to be a focus on proven use cases. There's a build of internal capabilities to supplement the generative AI models. We're beginning to establish governance frameworks, and you're going to see governance, ethics, responsibility very prominent during this time. During the midterm of 12 to 24 months, successful pilots are going to be expanded. We're going to be developing custom solutions. We're going to be integrating with core systems. Long term, what are we expecting? In the next 24 to 36 months, you're going to see enterprise-wide scale of delivery of these solutions. You're going to be seeing new levels of innovations in specific domains. You're going to be seeing advanced use cases. So these use cases are going to be advanced level. We're going to bring our best of breed developers, our business users, our project managers, and you're going to see a trend where people are working across domains that were originally siloed. So you're going to see people working across data, across project management, across businesses and business lines as we bring these advanced use cases forward to get the best out of our technology. Next slide, please. So, market correction, signs of market maturity and market correction indicators include that there's a shift from speculative to strategic funding. In other words, there's funding for more than just proof of value. This is to actual delivery funding. You're going to be seeing a focus on proven use cases. You're going to be seeing increased due diligence on the delivery of these solutions. Those are our investment patterns. From an enterprise adoption perspective, you're going to see more pilot first approaches. You're going to see an emphasis on ROI measurement. ROI, the return on investment, is rapidly coming front and center as CIOs provide extensive funding in this space, which means that they're going to be looking for reporting metrics. They're going to be looking for delivery of these solutions and how these solutions have actually provided value to the business. You're going to see an integration with existing systems, and across the vendor landscape, you're going to see market consolidations. Things are, if you look at the latest Microsoft blogs and some of the other blogs, you will see things like AI Foundation Frontier investments, where you're taking large language models such as Anthropic and Microsoft joint partnership with Google on delivering these solutions for the large language models. And as we look at this, you'll see Microsoft, Google, Anthropic, OpenAI combining resources across the markets to bring you best of breed. You're going to see specialization in specific verticals. So, for example, legal, medical, pharma, banking. You're going to also see focus on enterprise grade solutions. Next slide, please. Organizations that are further along in the Gen AI implementation tend to have a heavier share of users. And this slide specifically shows the hype versus reality. So, as we're looking at this slide, what you'll see is that the organizational level of generative AI implementation is lower than what we would actually expect. So, our early adopters are at 13%. Experimenters are a majority of this share at 60%, with no implementation at 22%. Looking at where we're going from this and what this means for us, for those that are early adopters and experimenting, you're seeing 26% with 43% of heavy usage for experimenters that are doing early adoption. On the 62%, you're seeing 49% with lighter users And for the non-users, you're seeing only 12% with 8% non-users adoption of the generative AI. So what does this mean? This means that for the early adopters, you're now seeing heavy usage at 43%, which is a significant number. That means almost half of our users are actually using Gen AI and the solutions. This statistic is taken from McKinsey and Company. Next slide, please. So on the hype versus reality, you're looking at the current reality. You're looking at 55% of companies reporting usage of AI in at least one function, one domain. Only 27% of companies, however, are reporting significant bottom line impact, meaning that the usage is actually impacting the bottom line. The bar chart showed the adoption and success rates in the previous slide. And for the 27% reporting significant bottom line impact, where is that impact? Those impacts are in things such as um, coding, the advantage in development domains, customer chatbots, help desk functionality. We're actually seeing a significant bottom line impact. Next slide, please. Common AI myths. And this is something we do need to address. One of the most common AI myths, which is what's creating some resistance within enterprise domains, AI will replace human workers. AI is only for tech giants. AI requires massive amounts of data. Um, so what you've got there is fact over fiction. Next slide, please. Next. Um, as we look at this reality, AI actually augments human capabilities. Um, um, Bank of America, for example, reported 2,000 new roles that were created by the AI implementation. AI is only for tech giants. Reality is that 43% have adopted AI tools. And then for AI requires massive data. Modern AI can work with smaller data sets. Capital One had a successful fraud detection implementation within just 6 months from use of historical data. Next slide, please. Next slide. The current AI landscape, the success factors for realistic expectations are clear use case definition, measured implementation timelines, defined success metrics. The infrastructure readiness showed that data quality assessment, computing resource planning, and integration architecture were key. Under risk management, we're looking at privacy considerations, security protocols, and compliance frameworks. Next slide, please. For the reality check taken from Pluralsight's 2025 forecast, the key to learning and evolving with AI models will be a hands-on experimentation, an open mind, a sense of humor. It will continue to evolve at a rapid pace, so learners and educators will need to adapt their approach and embrace a trial and error approach. Entry-level jobs will continue. Security and cyber attacks will be more common. Next slide, please. And so as we're looking at the success metrics, we will be looking at technical metrics, we will be looking at business impact, and we will be looking at risk metrics evaluations. Next slide, please. So for this structure, We've got AI implementation frameworks. We've got a 4 to 6 step process for AI implementation, assessing design, development, deployment, monitoring. And we strongly recommend that as you're looking at these, that you build out flowcharts and swim lane diagrams to help you in looking at your roadmap and also in looking at your reporting analytics. Next slide, please. And I think at this point we are done with the slide deck, and I'm opening it up for questions.
All right, great. Here's one from the audience, Anita. What are some of the most common misconceptions about AI that hinder its adoption, and how can these myths be addressed?
One of the most common hindrances to the AI adoption, especially with generative AI, is that it's only for data scientists, it's only for software technology, and that it's hard. The reality is, AI actually makes things easier. AI actually helps you code. AI provides you with the solutions and the tools that you need to do your day to day job.
Great. Here's another one. How should organizations prioritize AI projects when starting their implementation journey?
When you're starting your implementation journey, start with something small and something simple. What's most helpful is to look at other industries that have done something similar. Start with a small prototype, proof of value, and build up from there.
Okay, great. And how can organizations mitigate risks associated with AI, such as ethical concerns, bias, or over reliance on automation?
That's actually very simple. You need to have human in the loop for each one of these. And when I say human in the loop, at every step of the way that you have automation, ensure that you're performing best practices, that the data that you're using is clean, that the prompts that you're using are clearly defined, and also have a human in the loop, so a human person evaluating the responses.
Great. Here's another one. How does one do ROI calculation on Gen AI? Please give some tips.
So for ROI calculation, what you want to do is take a project that you would do a traditional ROI calculation on. So let's say code development. And what you've done is you've built a code development enabler. So Copilot's an example of this that's integrated with Gen AI. Look at what it takes. So let's say it's taking 10 hours to do code development for a specific piece of work right now. Uh, Provide the tools to a developer and see if it cuts their time and by how much it cuts the time. Take that ROI and multiply that factor, and provide charts and graphs and metrics for that.
Great. Here's another one. How do you integrate how do you integrate AI that's a function of different vendors' offerings?
So you would actually be working with your vendors on this one to help with the AI integration. One example is to use APIs to get to their data or figure out what their connectivity mechanism is to integrate it with whatever foundation model of your choice, whether it's ChatGPT, whether it's Anthropic's Claude, whether it's Meta's Llama. So work with your vendor to figure out how to do that integration, and almost every vendor will give you a solution for that or work with you on customizing it in your environment.
Great. Here's another one. What role does leadership play in ensuring AI implementation aligns with organizational strategy and values?
Um, s- so, um, so for aligning with your strategy and values, leadership needs to be driving the story, and leadership needs to be integrating the story. Having just left J.P. Morgan, for those of you that are aware of this, Jamie Dimon uh, made a statement that he would put AI on every employee's desktop. He did indeed do that. And we used it every day for our daily use.
Oh, great. And there's a lot of talk about AI agents and their use. Do you have thoughts on this as well?
Absolutely. So one of the things that our generative AI did when it first came out, it was text to text. As we built out more and more models, it became multimodal, meaning that you had vision capabilities, you had image, you had audio-visual capabilities, you had speech, and you had hearing capabilities. What agentic AI did, or AI agents, is it automates the functionality of all of these to provide workflows, pipelines, etc., for you to do your day-to-day job. Think customer chatbots, for example.
Great. Yeah, and I think we can tackle one more question here. Um, this person asks about generative AI image video generation for online video ads. For example, a cosmetic ad will need a studio and a crew for still picture production. Those costs will be reduced by generative AI. Do you think that's the case?
Yes and no. The reason is what generative AI is could help you with is solutions. So, for example, when I was building out this deck, I actually used a designer, and I was using a designer for some of the audio visuals. You're not going to find it of the caliber that you would of actual video. It does, however, help with things like sentiment analysis, which would reduce things like reshooting. It does help with idea generation. It does help with cleanup and so from that perspective, yes, you could significantly have some cost reductions.
Great. Well, thank you again, Anita, for an excellent keynote. And I want to thank everyone else for joining us today. This session, along with all of today's content, will be available on demand following the event. As a reminder, please be sure to check out the prizes and raffle rules section to see how you can earn points for the chance to win one of several prizes. Our next session will begin at 11:35 a.m. Eastern Time, which will be a panel discussion titled AI Use Cases for Business Transformation Success. Please click the join button that will appear on your screen to be redirected to the next session, and we look forward to seeing you there.